my YouTube viewers, Moogle847 back again, and I've decided since we finally hit that milestone of 10 subscribers, awesome, let's keep going. Actually, I think I looked at it today, it says we're at 11. Hey, look at that, because everything's better at 11. Thank you, Spinal Tap. Anyway, so, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and do a review of one of my movies that is nostalgic for me, but after coming back to it, I realized it just wasn't as good of a movie as I thought it'd be, or I thought it was. So, and this is one of those movies. I know, like, everyone kind of goes up and thinks of all the hype of, like, video game movies, and, I mean, especially we just had the Warcraft movie coming out, we got the Assassin's Creed movie coming out, so everyone's all hyped on the video game movie franchise thing. But I figured I'd go ahead and point out one that was kind of a disappointment to me. Now, I will say that I'm not against this company when it comes to making movies. I just look at this movie and sit there and go, okay, what the hell, guys? But we are today reviewing, and I am bringing out an old VHS, baby, Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Like I said, VHS, baby. Look up, it's the wrong way. There it is. Anyway, this movie was interesting because it came out at the hype of Final Fan, or the height of Final Fantasy. Look at that, nice, pretty pictures. But it came out during the hype of Final Fantasy, and I was one of those people that was in the hype. Alright, now of course, granted, when I was in the hype, I had played up through Final Fantasy VII, and this is a guy that had started from Final Fantasy II back on the SNES. I know it's 4, just I know. Alright guys, I know. Anyway, so I had played Final Fantasy. So I had played through and beaten Final Fantasy 2. I had played through and beaten Final Fantasy 3, which yes, I know that's 6 as well. And then I had played 7, and 7 was good. I played Final Fantasy 8, and I looked at that and went, "What the hell just happened?" And granted, by then we had a few more Final Fantasies come out, like 5 and Final Fantasy Origins, which is 1 and 2. So, I mean, I got to see some more of the Final Fantasy games. But I realized there's a trend that starts happening with a lot of the Final Fantasy games. And sadly, it still goes on today. Just wait for my review on Final Fantasy 13. Just no, but it's this one thing, and I will say this right now, because this is what happens all the time with Final Fantasy. They go up. I mean, Final Fantasy 1 didn't do this because it was the first one. Final Fantasy 2 didn't do this. It tried to be more story based, but they tried to change up their battle system to be a little more dynamic, which is not a bad thing. But the problem is, it was kind of like the World of Warcraft system of trying to excuse me, it's still early, trying to upgrade your individual stats as opposed to going up and gaining a level and then doing a joint stat boost, so to speak. So this game didn't do that, or that game didn't do that. Final Fantasy 3 happens. Alright, happened, I guess, and graphics were still 8-bit, so it didn't really matter too much, but they had some neat ideas. But they added in the job system, and that did okay. But this was the first game that I looked at and said, okay, after beating it myself on the DS version, it's one of those games that I went up and went, okay, so this is a game where they were like, look at these mechanics, look at what we've done with the graphics, listen to the soundtrack, isn't it amazing? Great, what's the story? Fuck. Someone hand me a napkin and a pen. Final Fantasy IV didn't do this, thank God. Final Fantasy V kind of feels like it did. Final Fantasy VI, totally fine. Final Fantasy VII was... Final Fantasy VI, it's still, in my opinion, the best. Final Fantasy VII, still very good. I mean, I kind of put those two real close to each other, but I still feel 6 is the stronger title. It's just everyone likes 7 more because of the fact that it came out on the PlayStation and it was 3D! Anyway, so Mario went 3D, but that doesn't mean all of his games were awesome as well. Mario Sunshine, I'm looking at you. Nothing wrong with the game, kind of, but yeah, just anyway, I'll get to that. Anyway, so with Final Fantasy VIII, when that came out, that was one of those games where they're like, oh yes, we're gonna have the swappable materia, awesome. We're gonna have this, or we're gonna have it be a love story focus, alright. We're gonna have this going on, okay, cool. Alright, now we gotta get it into 4 discs. Well, we'll see what we can do. Oh, or no, sorry, I screwed that up. It was, look at the battle mechanics. Look at how we made the characters look as realistic as possible. Look, we're adding in cars. Because fantasy and cars. Fantasy and cars. Square Enix. Look at the dictionary definition of fantasy. Science fiction can do cars. Fantasy is more of along the lines of something fantastical that wouldn't happen normally in real life. And most of the time, most people associate fantasy with like Lord of the Rings. So, you know. But that one happened, and my problem with that one was it got through the first 2 discs and then it just felt like they didn't know where the hell to take it from there. But yeah, it was also one of those ones where it's like, yeah, okay, what's the story? Shit. Here we go again. Final Fantasy IX did very well. That's one of my other high ones. Because technically it goes 6, 7, 4, 9. I kind of keep 4 a little bit above 9 just because, you know, nostalgic value. And I had, at that point, I think we had, I don't know if 10 had come out yet or not. I think it was still being discussed. But suddenly, in the middle of all of this, Square Enix decided to bring out a full CG movie. They had invested millions in this thing. They were like, we cannot go wrong with this. And they went wrong. Here we go. It is called Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. And when I first was seeing the trailers for this, I'm like, well, okay, it's futuristic. I don't like that. But we'll see where it goes. And then I ran into the problems when the movie came out. Me and a buddy went over and saw it, and we were nearly bored out of our minds. But it's also the fact that we looked at this thing and it was like, this does not feel Final Fantasy. The only thing that's Final Fantasy about this movie is the blasted title. Outside of that, it's like generic post-apocalyptic movie with like some mystic elements. And oh yes, I should mention that we were also disappointed in the lack of any of the Chocobos, Moogles, any of the original music, and well, they kind of put Sid in, but it isn't CID, it's SID. No. Just no. But like I said, like when me and my buddy are sitting there in a movie theater and we hear like a bird chirper sitting there going, oh, it's a chocobo, it's a chocobo, it's a chocobo, oh, it's a fucking bald eagle. or also the fact that every time we see the bad guy, and oh by God, they freaking make him out to be the complete bad guy. it's it's he is so out there as being the bad guy that even like the most arbitrary movie bad guys like Joker or something like that would look at him and go, dude, put that away. That's too much. Because seriously, like him running around, he's wearing all black, has black gloves, black slicked black hair. Of course, the fact they got James Woods to play him was actually pretty damn cool. But the fact that he's running around and me and my buddy are sitting there humming Sephiroth's theme every time he shows up. Yeah, but no, just they they got Elliot Goldenthal to do the music, and I'm not going against Elliot Goldenthal, guys. He's a good musician, or he's a good musician, good music composer. My mic's on the other side. It's showing up on this side, or it's showing up on this side of the screen when it looks reversed to me. I'm gonna keep on or keep looking at it and gonna think it's over here. Anyway, but I digress. But like I said, Elliot Goldenthal, I have nothing against the guy. I just feel that he was not right for this movie because I know that Nobuo Uematsu could do a really good job. And apparently all they had Uematsu do was write the ending theme, which was called Dream Within, I think. And it's a good song. It's not bad at all. But just the fact that here we are watching our first Final Fantasy movie, and it has nothing to do with Final Fantasy other than like, oh yeah, we gotta collect 8 spirits, because at that point, technically, when they were working on that, they had only done 8 games, because 9 was still in the works. But it's just the fact that I looked at this and I said, oh my god, guys, you can just tell they concentrated too much on trying to make this movie look as photorealistic as possible. I mean, they even did a Maxim magazine cover, and I am not joking on this. You can go up, there's a Maxim magazine cover with the main character, Dr. Aki Ross, and and it's there. She's being played by Ming-Na, but for Maxim, they had her being they had her going up, or they had that character posed in a swimsuit, and they made sure to put like little details like moles and various other things on there just to make her look realistic, and it did look pretty damn good. Don't get me wrong, but of course nowadays the graphics on the CG are starting to look a little dated, but yeah, that was fun. And then of course then again I say that, and then you look at Lord of the Rings now after watching Hobbit, and you're seeing like Gollum's hair sticking up and actually kind of sitting over his shoulder, not actually on his shoulder. I mean, they're doing the effect to make it look like it's going over, but then you're seeing every once in a while his hair going, and it's like, oh, geez, there's a jaggy. But yeah, but the deal is though, with this, we're trying for photorealistic. See who else was in this movie? We had Alec Baldwin playing Gray, and in fact, this guy is so gray that he has no last name. Oh, this guy's gonna die, isn't he? Oh, end of the movie, yeah. Sorry, spoiler. Anyway. And then you get, then you have Donald Sutherland playing Sid. Actually, I'm okay with that. I'll give that one a pass. That's awesome. I'm a huge Donald Sutherland fan. Loved him in Space Cowboys, and I put him up there with James Garner for like old actors that are that are in my top list. But yeah, sadly we lost Garner a few years ago. Man, that was sad. Anyway, but yeah, I got done watching this movie, and I went up and went, I don't know whether I like it or hate it. I mean, I eventually got it myself, but looking back at it, I'm sitting there going, man, this movie was all hype and nothing else. It had like nothing else going for it. Generic story of post-apocalyptic world where bad guy decides to do something stupid, blames the bad things that happened, and then gets permission to go up and do more bad things, but doesn't want to listen to the other people that are sitting there shouting, hey, stop firing or stop trying to do whatever you're doing because you're hurting the planet. Really? We're doing we're doing freaking eco message. God help me, we're doing eco message. Anyway, but like I said, so basically Aki is trying to find eight spirits to go against these phantoms, because these 8 spirits, and no, they are not the Eidolons. God, I wish they were. But no, they're just 8 little pieces of crap, or just blue crap, that's supposed to go against these guys that are red crap. Oh, and I also forgot one of the other voices that was really prominent was, oh god, what's his name? Steve Buscemi. There we go. And he was supposed to be the comic relief, and, well. And I mean, even Cinema Sins did a video on Final Fantasy The Spirits of Them. The only thing, though, that made me mad about his video, he forgot to mention one of the greatest sins in this movie. And that is the fact that every time a man, or one of the men, gets grabbed by one of these spirits, you get like blue Ken doll comes out of the body. So, okay, well then there's one girl that's going to get hit by one of these things and turn into a blue ghost. Alright, cool. We get to see the blue naked Barbie look. Nope, we get particle effect. I don't know if that's sexist or what. So what, you're saying only the men can have blue protoform? Women just have to be particle? But yeah, this movie had a lot of inconsistencies I didn't like. The music did nothing for me other than like maybe a few times where I heard the music kind of do like the first couple notes, and I'm like, oh, we're getting some Final Fantasy. No, that was disappointing. But like I said, this movie. I mean, this is one of the first video game movies outside of Super Mario Brothers that I really cared about. Oh, and Mortal Kombat. I'll get to that one too. But outside of those two, that I was like, dude, awesome. We got video game movies. How can you go wrong? And looking back, I'm going, what the hell were we on? And this one's no exception, guys. It really is just. It baffles my mind how bad this movie was. And I might even do a follow-up at some point, because I kind of wouldn't mind getting like Ace involved in some of my review videos at some point. And I would love for him to review this one with me, because I would love to get his counter opinion or whatever on it. But it's just, this movie just disappointed me through and through. Because it just, by the end of it, it was like, wow, look at what we can do with CG, and this is a Final Fantasy movie by name only. No. Just no. And like I said, the other Final Fantasy games, they have had hit or misses, and I am even starting to see a little bit of the pattern with Final Fantasy 15. No, I am not hating on the game, but it looks like one of those games where, yeah, they concentrated a bit on the story, and they have gone up and they have worked very hard on the graphics and the battle system, which is going away from Final Fantasy and going more toward Kingdom Hearts. I like my turn-based, thank you. Give me that back, please. Because some of us don't want to sit there and try to be thinking about what spell we're going to be using while we're sitting there fumbling with our fucking controller. You know, trying to make sure the monster doesn't hit me. But, you know, what worries me now about this is the fact that they're promoting the shit out of it. And then they decided, they're like, oh yeah, we're also going to do an anime series and a full CG movie to go with this. And we want to sell 10 million copies of this game to go up and, you know, make sure we break even. Oh, Final Fantasy, or Square Enix, why you hurt my favorite series? Oh well. Anyway, guys, that's really all I got for you today. So, bottom line, Final Fantasy Spirits Within, I'm gonna give it. See, looking back now, I'm gonna give it like a either a C minus or a D plus. I'm leaning toward the D plus. It wasn't terrible, but it just, ugh. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. This is Moogle 847. I'm going to see you guys later around 5:15, 5:30-ish. Well, 5:30 is when the thing starts, but I'm going to see you around then when I do my live stream. So, take care, y'all.